Hello, good morning, or whatever time it is when you find this video. So, today I was really thinking about my big move across the country, all of the changes I've made in my life, and thinking about the notion that, like, you are wherever you go, right? Like, changing your environment, changing your circumstances, getting more money, getting a new job, starting a family, getting married, whatever, right? All these huge life things can happen, but at the core of it, you are still in whatever circumstances, you're still in whatever state you move to, you're still in whatever country you move to. You're still there, just in a new job. You're still the same person, just married. And that's such an interesting thing to think about, because I think a lot of people, including myself sometimes, feel like when you make big changes, it'll change you. And in some ways, that could be true. But in a lot of ways, the outcomes of our decisions, of our big moves, our big life changes, are a result of who we are when we encounter those opportunities, where we are when that change of circumstances happen. And when I say where we are, I mean like mentally, emotionally. Please excuse me, I was outside, it was cold, my nose is running. Don't think y'all want to hear that. Um, yeah, there's so many things that we think will be like, oh, once this happens, my life will be completely different. Once this happens, I'll be happy. When the reality of it is, we need to work on ourselves. And then, as a result of us working on ourselves, it makes all of these different circumstances better. If you don't know, my name is Alexis. I make videos every single day, and I want to talk about this. So, let's dive into it a little bit. So when I moved across the country, well, when I was thinking about moving across the country, there was a big part of me that was tired of the circumstances I was in, right? Stuff going on with my family, stuff going on with friendships. I think I've mentioned this before, but I was also kind of dealing with relationship stuff that was messing with my head. And I thought, okay, I think a move is what I need. And that was true. But there were a lot of things that I didn't realize that I still really needed to work on myself that made the move a lot more difficult unnecessarily, because I didn't fully take the time to do some of the work while I was on the other side of the country before I moved. There was stuff going on at work. The job stuff was wild. It was absolutely crazy. I hope nobody I know ever has to deal with that. And when I finally did make the move, yes, there was, in some ways, it was easier for me to make those changes. And in some ways, it made the move harder because I still had so much to work on internally. And I didn't realize how much work still needed to be done until I made the move. And then after I made the move, it was like, oh, I still don't like myself very much. That's not great. The same imposter syndrome, while it did help a lot during my job search, I think I've talked about that as well, but while there was still some of that imposter syndrome that was helped eased in the new job because of the way I conducted my job search, there was still a lot of like, how am I going to figure out how to do this? How am I going to learn these processes? There's a whole new batch of people that I have to get to know. I have never done this. Whole new batch of friends that I have to meet. Thankfully, when I moved, there was there were already some people here that I knew cared about me, so that made it easier. But making new friends when back home, I was tired of trying to make new friends. Like, that's kind of a big change to make when you've I don't want to say giving up because like I was still meeting people, but I had kind of given up making new friends back in California. And after I moved, I realized that I had to do it, but I didn't I hadn't had a lot of practice that I probably should have had when like before I moved. So, there's that too. And I say all this to say that there are a lot of life changes that we might really, really want to make, and they can be very beneficial for us. But at the end of the day, we still have to work on our patience. Some of us might be working on anger issues, some of us might be working on loving ourselves. And that doesn't change automatically with a change of scenery. In some ways, it can make it easier, but in a lot of ways, I think I would have been benefited by doing more of that work. I don't want to say when it was harder, but doing more of that work on myself when it was a little more uncomfortable, probably would have built more resilience. And now I have to do that work a year and a half after I moved, which is still fine. Like the work is getting done, but man. So getting back to the main point, you are wherever you go. You can try to run, you can try to hide, you can try to escape. And you can run from the circumstances, you can run from the place, you can run from the people, but you can't outrun yourself. And that can be scary for a lot of people. I honestly think that's why there are a lot of people who really, really want to be in romantic relationships, for instance, but they're really scared of being by themselves. We all know that person, right? That they hop from one relationship to another with like very little time in between. And for some people, it works. But I do think there's probably a lot of those people that aren't aren't accustomed to sitting in their own thoughts. They're not accustomed to being by themselves and what that really means and what that feels like. They might be scared to be by themselves. Some people are afraid of their own thoughts, somewhat justifiably. Um, I think it's important, going back to the main point, I think it's important for each of us to take some time, take some stock of yourself to the best of your ability, and work on our internal issues before trying to introduce third parties, new places, whole new groups of people, new jobs, whatever it happens to be. When, one moment, when there are still a lot of things that we can be working on ourselves that'll make it easier to make these big life changes, that'll make it much healthier once we're in these new places. I think a lot of us can benefit from that, including myself. That's why I'm doing the work now. It's so hard. It is so hard doing work on yourself, and that's probably why a lot of people don't take the time to do it, because it's uncomfortable. It sucks sometimes. Like, oh man, somebody being in therapy, and if my therapist is watching this, hey Trey, but being in therapy and having someone sit on Zoom or across a room in another chair or whatever from you and be like, yeah, so we still got to work on this. You're doing great, sweetie, but we still have a long way to go. It's very uncomfortable. And a lot of people aren't ready for that. Um, and I think that's why more of us should be taking the time. I don't know why I grabbed this, by the way, but whatever. More of us should be taking the time to do some work on ourselves. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in therapy. I do think it's beneficial for most of us, but therapy can be expensive. A lot of people don't even have jobs right now. So trying to say that we should all be paying $100, $100+ for a therapist every week, every other week, There are other ways. There are plenty of books you can get from the library. There are plenty of videos you can watch on YouTube. There are other ways to work on yourself. Not saying you have to go the therapy route, but um, yeah. So let's the takeaway from this video is it's fine to want to make big changes in your life. It's fine to want a change of circumstances, a change of scenery, a change of um, whatever. But just know that without doing the work on yourself, this is coming from someone who's done it. Without doing the work on yourself, it's never going to be as healthy, as fruitful, as you're never going to flourish as much as when the work is done internally first versus trying to change everything externally and not looking inward. That's kind of a bar. Anywho, okay. Thanks everyone for joining me today. Again, my name is Alexis. I'm making videos every single day. So, if you enjoyed me yapping, feel free to subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.